Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm Petter and this is James.
Hey there.
And today we're talking about Frieren Beyond Journey's End Volume 6. I loved it. I thought it was a great follow-up to Volume 5, but I don't think I have much else to say. How about you?
No, it's really good. There's so much to really love about this and the direction that they continue to go in, and I don't know. Every volume, I just fall more in love with this simple-ish journey,
Hmm,
and the lore that's being built up.
right. Yeah, I said I didn't have anything else to say, but I do have a lot to say about a lot of these characters. So let's dive into those, shall we? Starting with Frieren, as I think we always do on this one. Of course, we find out she has plenty of experience raiding dungeons. She did it plenty during her journey with the Party of Heroes. And I was I was very happy to see her getting caught by mimic chests,
Oh, it's so
pretty
great.
much right away.
It's dark in here. I'm scared.
Yeah. Like it had to be there. Like the moment I think there was some kind of hint, like someone mentioned a mimic chest, I was like, oh my gosh, of course this guy going to happen here in a dungeon. Like yes, and of course it did, and it happened again. Oh my god, it was so good. And I love the method of getting her out there instead of pulling. You had to push her into it so that the mimic gags on her, and then you can pull her out.
It's so great.
It's so good,
I I love that recurring kind of gag, and not I mean, yeah, getting caught in the mimic, but just Frieden finding herself in situations where she's stuck in something,
yeah.
you know, or she's fallen over with her butt in the air. Yeah, it's just hilarious.
It is. It is.
But speaking of her love for dungeons, she mentioned, I think, that her team had conquered the most dungeons out of anybody, at least according to her. And they had a specific way of going about it, all because of Himmel. They had to
Yes.
go over every corner, nook and cranny, and that's actually very similar to how I play video games. So some people will just go through a dungeon, the main points. Nothing wrong with that, of course. Uh, in fact, they probably have better use of their time. Me, like I like when I'm playing like a Zelda game,
Mm-hmm.
or some sort of game that has varying paths. I will purposely go in the wrong direction.
Oh yes.
And if I realize I'm going in the right direction, it's like, oh well, turn around. Let's go. We got to find the secrets that could be there, maybe.
Yes.
So it's kind of funny that kind of mentality is carrying on over to this world.
Yeah, I loved it too. I'm also one of those who ever since I was a kid, I've also played video games that way, like Pokemon and Zelda, and like yeah, as you said, like
Yes.
those sorts of games where yeah, there's a level of exploration to it, and yeah, it was so fun to see that, and I and yeah, like just how Himmel and it seemed like it was a bit weird or like to the other characters
Yeah.
how he like not only does he do this, he also just he gets excited by doing the going through dungeons. Like that's something he
hmm
enjoys doing, really, like he's playing a video game, and like in the same kind of a way, and like yeah, he just really wants to 100% each dungeon.
hmm
Like a true gamer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was really fun.
I think there may be a grimoire, over the corner or something like that. What are we doing sitting around here for? Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Love that. And yeah, and we found out here about Frieren's fatal vulnerability. That her mana detection breaks off for like a split second when she casts a spell. And apparently that's something that most mages kind of learn to avoid doing pretty early on in their
Hmm.
training. But it's something that Frieren just never really got the hang of for some reason, and it's like her one kind of fatal flaw. I think it's kind of cute, and it's also interesting to see that she isn't flawless even when it comes to
Right.
these, I guess, yeah, combat type of kind of things.
Well, it's interesting that Serie mentions, because more or less she had focused so much on subduing her magic aura, or just the magic she puts off.
Mm.
They kind of let her a little lacking in some of the basics, or some of the other
Right.
things that
Mm.
mages should have already mastered, if I understood what she was saying correctly.
Yeah, no, but it seemed that
Um,
way.
yeah. So it's interesting that we're getting that side, because from from what we understand,
Uh-huh.
Frieren is, very OP, very powerful.
For sure.
And I don't think that this changes that, but it's funny to see that in some of the smaller things, she either struggles or just has never bothered to master.
Exactly. And I guess about her incredible power, and like we learn, or we really understand it, even even like we definitely knew it before this volume very well, but I think this volume
Mm-hmm.
also does a really good job at showing it, how not only do all of the characters, like all of the, I guess, participants of the exam, they are aware of her incredible power, and they're all afraid, really like terrified of facing the clone of her. And we also see how that clone did resort to, I guess, this kind of ace that Frieren keeps up her sleeve in a way when it was fighting.
that was, wow.
Yeah, something that, according to Fern, it didn't even feel like magic, and it was just super powerful, and it was a move that supposedly Frieren, obviously she knows it, and but she hasn't really been forced to use it in about 80 years. Or yeah, I mean, she still hasn't, like, she hasn't broken that streak technically. It was her clone who did it, but still, it's really
Hmm.
interesting to see that she has so much more kind of hidden that she doesn't use because she usually doesn't need to. um but yeah, she really is a monster in a way.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I was shocked
Yeah, yeah.
when Fern got slammed to the wall. I mean, I guess that part you could expect that Fiden's clone would have continued to fight, but it was just this whole just change in how Fiden fights and the magic circle underneath her.
Uh-huh.
Fern calling the apex of magic, like
Yeah.
that how it was just so cool and epic, and obviously Frieden getting the final shot on her clone
Mm.
was a good moment, but also she brings up that, like you said, I've never used that spell in 80 years. It just shows you how much more there is, that we knew that she was incredibly powerful, but
Hmm.
it's beyond just, maybe like upping the meter or upping how much power the Zoltark, whatever that move is called,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
has. We're talking like a new Echelon. Echelon, is that the word? A new tier of magic.
Yeah, right. Yeah, somehow it's just different, and that
Hmm.
really intrigues me, and that's definitely something I'm gonna want to learn more about as the story progresses. Eventually.
Right. Yeah. So she says 80 years. It makes me wonder if it just had to been against the Demon King. Maybe, I don't
Uh,
know. I mean,
oh yeah,
80 years is not exactly. Is it? It's not exactly 80 years, but maybe she's just kind of guesstimating.
yeah, yeah. She also said roughly 80 years or something. Like, she didn't say exactly.
Yeah.
So actually, yeah, that I think would add up to that, I believe.
I can't wait to see, because they gotta show what the fight with against the Demon King was like
Yeah, yeah,
in
I
some
believe
aspect,
it
right?
will. I'm pretty sure that, or I don't know if it's exactly, but at least the way I like to imagine it is that these flashbacks that we get to the party of heroes, that they take place in chronological order.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously that definitely isn't necessarily the case, but I imagine that it might be, it could be, or at least, well, yeah. I believe most of it at least would work that
Interesting.
way, and that maybe or supposedly perhaps near the very end of the manga as a whole, we may also get those flashbacks to the actual showdown with the Demon King.
Hmm.
But yeah, who knows? But at least at some point, I'm sure we'll get to see some of that.
Yeah. I don't think I'm as convinced that they're in chronological order per se.
Mm.
Although maybe from like volume 2 or 3 on, they have become chronological as they travel up. But uh, you know, I
Mm.
could buy it.
Or actually, it definitely can't be completely, because I just realized there was a relatively recent flashback to when Frieren met the party for the first time, kind of, in
Hmm.
like the
Right.
previous or so book.
Right. Right.
Obviously that couldn't have been that, but at least most of them could be. But yeah, anyway, it's not a really important thing.
Hmm.
But I guess about the party and everything. by the end of this book, Frieren made it clear that by now she is very well aware of how lucky she was to have traveled with Himmel and Heiter and Eisen when she was on her journey with them.
Yes,
And
she is.
thinking thinking back on or to volume one, um, I don't think Frieren in that volume would have I think really appreciated that as much or kind of recognized how lucky she was to have known them.
Yeah, I think I agree.
So I love seeing that kind of growth within her, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
we have talked about it. Like Frieren, well, she is a fully fledged mage. I mean, more than fully
Hmm.
fledged. She's like a masterful mage. Like she's incredible. Um, so she hasn't really any room to grow there necessarily. And besides, she's I guess learning more spells, which obviously she loves to do that. But really, where she is growing and where she's improving herself and whatnot
Mm-hmm.
is just in within herself, and kind of
Mm.
the sensitive side of her. And I think it has she has grown in that regard, and it's made very clear by the end of this book, and I love that.
Absolutely. Throughout the volume, you just see kind of a smile on her face, and she's really enjoying herself. And this isn't new per se, but it's not something we've seen consistently.
Fair, yeah, yeah.
And throughout the dungeon crawling, she was just having a blast. Finding the treasures and being proud of finding the clues and figuring out things and coming up with plans. Just like, man, I'm loving this. Like, it was
Yeah.
just really wholesome to see her really happy, and even Fern would comment on it.
Hmm.
So I like that. Another thing where you kind of see her personality growth, well, I guess it's more so relationship growth, is when she's talking with Fern. She mentions that she had always underestimated Fern,
Right.
and they kind of had a special moment there.
Hmm.
So which made me think, oh man, I just love how far they've grown. I mean, yes, they've been close for a long time, but at this point, Frieden really sees her as somebody incredibly special instead of just an annoying brat I have to take along with me. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. And she is actually, I guess you could say, mature enough to appreciate Fern's company in the moment.
Yes.
Like, and that's something that she sadly probably didn't really get to do with the Party of Heroes. I think
Yeah.
it wasn't until after, many years after they broke up, that she actually started to appreciate and cherish those years.
Oh man.
And that's really what makes it really tragic. I think that whole side of the story. But I mean, it's so good, and how there was a flashback in I think the second to last chapter in this volume where Heiter told Fern that Frieren is oh, wait, sorry, how did he put it?
Frieden lacks emotion and empathy.
That's right. Yeah, she lacks emotion and empathy, which maybe that was true back then, but I don't think it's quite true anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, she still struggles showing it. I think
Mm-hmm.
to definitely a noticeable extent, but it's there. It's clearly there. Even though, yeah, it may not have been there. Maybe not at all back when he knew her.
As we were talking about Frieden not being able to relish or enjoy the moment when she was with the hero party,
Hmm.
uh, I just thought about her crying in the cathedral
Oh
during
yeah.
Himmel's funeral.
Hmm.
I just got a little emotional because that's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
But she's come so far, and now it feels like she can really just appreciate the short lives that her friends Fern and Stark are living.
Yeah.
Um, and that's another thing about this volume is you get really into the mindset of these two creatures, and what's his name, the monk elf
Crafts.
Craft. We've had his perspective on living a long time, but here
Hmm.
we get this mage and really ancient person's perspective on how long it is, or how long their lives are compared to the human
Hmm.
life. And we'll talk about Serie later, but it was very interesting to hear both Fern and not Fern, Frieden and Serie go back and forth, just kind of pondering their existence and whatnot.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Do you have anything about Flamme?
Actually, I kind of was just about to bring up something about her.
Okay, great.
Or well, it's about Frieren and her. Um,
Yeah.
so it's about this spell to create a
Mm-hmm.
field of flowers that we learned was Flamme's favorite spell, and also became Frieren's favorite spell.
Yeah.
And well, obviously, it's beautiful that I think first of all, just that Frieren loved that spell so much because she learned it from her master, and how that was special to them together, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we also found out that it was that spell that essentially made it so that she joined the heroes party.
Yeah.
That gave it even more meaning, and that was so beautiful, and really understand. It makes me really understand why that is Frieren's favorite spell, and I guess that whole interaction was just also really beautiful. How
Mm.
she wouldn't kind of contest Seria's judgment of her. She didn't really care because she was
Mm-hmm.
already. I mean, as she said, she felt lucky. Like she had good memories and good people around her. Something that Serie probably doesn't have. So in a way, Frieren was the winner, kind of in that meeting, regardless of kind of whether she got the certification or not.
Mm. The flower spell, it might supposedly be a very simple one, a one that is not exciting whatsoever.
Mm.
But for Frieden, it's gotten a lot of mileage in you know just being a very special spell that has helped her in a lot of ways. And I believe that's the same spell that she used when visiting this Himmel's statue. Um,
Yeah,
Obviously, she had to go find the specific flower, but once she found the flower, she was able to use the Feel the Flower spell, I believe.
I think so. Mm.
Yeah, so it's nice to see that same spell kind of come back at various moments in the story and just show how important it is to her story.
Precisely. Anything else on Frieren?
She was a little insensitive to Fern about the staff. I mean,
Mm.
that's where that whole line of her not having emotion and empathy comes. But uh, she's definitely she definitely makes up for it, and I think she understood at some point that she was being insensitive,
Exactly.
um,
Mm.
which I don't think probably even at the beginning of the story, uh, or when she first meets Fern, I don't think she would have done that.
Yeah, I agree. Or yeah, I also think so.
At least not to that extent, because
Mm.
Hyder does say that you know she does like make it up in some way or something along those
Yeah,
lines.
because she cares. Like
Right.
she might not understand how you feel, or have those emotions herself, but she still cares, and that was always true about her. So
Right.
I guess maybe, but still, yeah. Ultimately I also don't think she would have been as likely to go this far to I guess make Fern happy back
Hmm.
9 years ago.
Yeah.
Then let us move on to Fern. She didn't seem to like it when Methode was really close to Frieren.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny.
She said, "My Frieren,
Yeah.
my master."
um, just silly but very funny thing.
Yeah, just the look of her, just kind of pulling Frieren away.
Exactly.
This is really funny.
Mm.
Uh, Sensei says Fern doesn't have the same passion, or not even that right. Fern doesn't have the same passion she had as a child, and Sensei brings that up, or at
Mm.
least that she doesn't have passion. And I thought that was interesting. Like, yeah, Fern has always kind of had that somewhat non-passionate feeling to her in a way. But I guess since we had seen her work so hard in her childhood, that I to me I guess didn't come across that way, that she wasn't as into it. But the as I thought about it, it's like you're right. She wasn't, or she kind of struggled to understand why Frieden would get so excited about simple little spells, or wanting to spend so much time doing things and whatnot.
Mm.
Um, so that I guess there is a difference between uh, Frieden's passion and Fern's passion in that. But I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting
Mm.
thing to point out that Fern's pursuit of magic is not as strong, but because it brings Frieren happiness, uh, Fern enjoys it.
For sure, and I believe I think it's a very good possibility that Fern might also learn to appreciate magic in the same way Frieren does,
Mm-hmm.
as she spends more and more time with her,
Yeah,
and that way she might,
that's fair.
I guess, I guess she would gain a type of passion like that again, like I guess a passion for herself that isn't reliant on somebody else's passion as much. Um, but I think something like that could end up happening to her, which I think that would be nice because she's already kind of adapted a lot of things from Frieren. Obviously,
mm,
mainly in the way they use magic, but I think it's very likely that something like this could happen as well.
yeah, I agree.
But you know, we mentioned it earlier a little bit, but that end of the battle with Friedrin's clone, it had me
Mm.
so invested, and I was legitimately worried for Fern there. You know,
No way.
when that yeah when that that final move or that well yeah the
mm,
clone's final move there. I I don't know if I legitimately thought she would die, but
mm.
I don't know exactly what went through my head, but I was definitely very worried, definitely on the edge of my seat.
She got hurt, like for sure. You
Yeah,
know,
like blood coming out her mouth. I was like, no,
right?
Fern, no.
Yeah,
Uh
that was a hard slam against the wall
huh.
for sure. I did, yeah. That fight in general was just really cool. It was
Hmm.
awesome to see Frieden and Fern uh, fighting together. And even though Fern took more of a uh, hide and wait approach, it was just cool to see their strategy and
Yeah,
them go against a foe that you know the most powerful foe they've fought yet.
precisely. Yeah, totally. I wonder when this is going to get topped. Kind of like who's gonna pose a bigger threat than this.
I wonder. It's a good question. There's some candidates,
There are.
but I guess we can save that for predictions.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fair. Fair. Let's do that.
But I guess just along with that, real quick, Fern knows Frieden's weaknesses. They've just been enough time
Mm.
together that she's picked up on some of those weaknesses, and it seems also that they've kind of shared with each other, maybe, or they've talked to each other about that kind of stuff, which is not surprising per se. But
Do you
yeah,
think, or
they
about Freedom's weakness? I didn't get the impression that they talked about that before.
no like it seems like they understand like strategy wise they knew beforehand what they were doing. It almost felt like you know, not so much that Freeman's like, hey, if you want to kill me, you got to do this, but more so that they're so much on the same wavelength, they were able to come up with a plan and a B plan,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
if needed. So that, I guess what I'm trying to say is they're really connected.
True. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and it was definitely a treat to see that in the battle. And also in that battle, Fern's staff broke,
Mm,
and I when I saw that happen, obviously it was a bit sad because obviously she's had it from the very start, but I
mm-hmm.
I initially just assumed that she would either get a brand new one, just I guess to change it up a little bit, a new, brand new design for his staff, make things a little bit fresh in the story. Well, really just the design wise, but still, could be fun. Was something that went through my head. Or I imagine that maybe they can fix it partially, but still have it look a little bit different or something like that.
Hmm.
To still give somewhat of a new, fresh design to it. But no, it
What do you think? This is the battle shonen? Come on.
yeah, that was silly of me to assume that. But yeah, no, it just looks the exact same now because it was perfectly mended, which is awesome. Because once I realized just how important it was to her, I was very happy to that it actually got repaired completely. And when Richter, you know, as he was repairing it, he he was able to tell just how much Fern treasured that staff and like understanding all of that made me very glad it was brought or restored.
Mm. Yeah, no, it was. really great to have that. And I felt bad for Fern because she was just so attached to it,
Mm,
but it was a nice payoff to um, have Frieden kind of show she cares
right.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it also briefly, slightly, in a way, made me think better of Richter than I did
Yeah.
before. I mean, he was never evil or anything, but
No,
since the previous volume, he was a bit uncool, I guess.
he's
But
got a he's got yeah abrasive
yeah,
nature. Hard to like.
right. So it was nice to see him do a good deed like this. Yeah, Fern, she is really a mana expert. Like, not only is she a natural at concealing her own mana, as we've known from the start, pretty much, but she was also able to see, like, right away that Serie is restraining her mana, which
Hmm.
even what was his name now? Lernen, I believe. Even he, who had been able to see that Siri, or sorry, that Frieren was restraining hers, he hadn't been able to see that Serie was restraining hers, but Fern could see through that, like, right away. So I was very impressed, or like just kind of happy to see like such a, I'd say, badass thing from her. I mean, not that she hasn't been badass before, because she absolutely has, but this was just a new wave to show that, and I thought it was really, really awesome.
But I love the when she asked Fern to be her apprentice, and she's like, "What? No way!"
Yeah, yeah, I love that.
it's it's like a someone. It's like, "Will you go out with me?" What? No way.
Just spitting daggers.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was a beautiful end to the volume.
Hmm.
Of course, has me very excited for volume 7 now. But yeah, no, that was great. Anything else on Fern?
No.
Then let's talk about Syria next. So we learned that Flamme dedicated her life to bringing magic to humanity,
Hmm.
so that anyone who wanted to learn magic could do that, basically. And she was successful in that throughout her life, which is awesome. But Syria didn't like that, since she thinks that only the truly, truly talented mages should be able to know magic.
She wanted to keep it special.
Yeah, like I get, because when she said that, I could actually, I could sort of understand, like, yeah, I guess so. Like, magic is kind of special. Like, I can sort of see what see it a little bit, but at the same time, like, of course, spreading it more is only a good thing, right? Like, especially now that they lived in an era where humans were really suffering because of other creatures who were using magic to
Hmm.
oppress them. Of course, it's only a good thing that they get a means to defend themselves
Yeah.
and to strike back. Like, it really is a good thing ultimately. So why Syria disagree with that? Yeah, it's a bit dumb.
Yeah. It seems very entitled,
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
you know,
for sure.
high-minded. I don't know if there's a deeper meaning behind it potentially. Maybe because of her long life, she has knowledge of this kind of thing. Because of her experience, she's seen it gone wrong when you give people magic to everybody.
Maybe. Hmm.
I think what we've seen so far is that magic has made great progress because you've opened it up to everybody.
Yeah.
Um, Without doing that, progress would probably be a lot slower. And I don't think the Demon King would have been defeated when it was. I don't know if
Yeah.
CDA has realized that yet. Like, she obviously understands the
Hmm.
Demon King's dead, um, or gone, and um, acknowledges that Frieden did so, although she's flabbergasted how.
Right.
Um, and that's the thing. I think if once she realizes that the world is a better place because there are more mages in the world, which maybe she has, but she doesn't act like it's been a benefit for her.
No.
Once she
No.
realizes that, I think her opinions on the whole magic should be kept special will change. And and I don't think making it exclusive changes how special it is.
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
Maybe it's just safer if you only give it to people who uh, have a talent. Maybe that could be it, but I don't think it changes how special it is.
No, no, that's definitely true. She said that if Frieren is ever killed, it will be by the Demon King or a human mage.
Mm.
Seeing as the Demon King is now dead, assuming she is correct, then it's going to be a human mage. Of course, Frieren doesn't need to be killed by anyone. But if she is, then Serie thinks it'll be by a human mage at this point. She was kind of trash talking the technique of restraining your visible mana
Absolutely,
when she
yeah.
was talking to the other instructors. Yet apparently she uses the technique herself. So I thought that was kind of funny and interesting, and it makes me wonder what else she may have been untruthful about.
Yeah,
If there's anything else that we've seen her say or heard her say
right.
that might not really add up with what she, I guess, actually believes.
Well, that's an interesting thing you bring up because she's mentioned multiple times how, like with Flame, she's like, why did I even bring that apprentice? It was just a
Yeah.
whim.
Mm-hmm.
And then she mentions another apprentice, I forget his name, but he was in the story a couple times, and how he showed promise, but because he's human, he's gonna die soon. So it's like, why do I keep doing this to myself? And then she gets really excited about Fern and is like, yes, be my apprentice. So
Yeah.
I think she actually really does. Maybe it's just because there's no one else out there for her to bring in as an apprentice.
Right. There aren't many elves. Yeah. True. True.
But she does seem, excited about promising magic users. And when you look back on some of the flashbacks, at least with her and Flame, she is smiling and seems like she's uh, having a good time, like a better word, raising Flame.
Right. Yeah. It's true.
Even though she says like, "Oh, I thought it was so silly and it was so asinine." She didn't use the word asinine, but she kind of what she was saying didn't match up with the imagery that you're seeing,
Yeah.
and
I
that
agree.
and maybe that's nothing. Maybe that's just how they decided to draw it, and I shouldn't be reading too deep into it.
Mm.
But based on the fact that it doesn't seem like she's always 100% truthful with herself. Maybe that maybe
Mm-hmm.
she is fond of humans. Maybe she
Yeah.
has a soft spot for them, but maybe she doesn't want to admit that.
Right. I mean, I think that's really very possible because I also picked up on that little detail in the illustrations how it yeah it seems like she was enjoying her time with Flame
Mm-hmm.
and also as you said like she raised or she kind of tutored Lernan to become the
Yeah, that guy.
first class mage and she said she kind of regretted it, but almost immediately after she invites or she asks Fern to become her apprentice. Yeah,
Right.
it is curious. But I guess real quick on that, since Fern won't want that, like she doesn't want that.
Don't take the thunder. Okay, fine, go for it. Fine, go ahead.
Maybe
Go ahead.
I'm probably
Go ahead.
going to. I'm suspecting Serie might take Übel under her wing instead.
Yeah. So I think that's a strong possibility. However, here's
Uh-huh.
my counterpoint to that.
Ah, okay.
Would Übel even consider that? Because she clearly has well, I do kind of want to save this discussion for her, but I just think that Übel is in the realm of genius, but would she want to be tied down to an apprenticeship?
Oh, that's fair.
Um,
That's fair.
it doesn't exactly seem her style, but then
Hmm.
again, maybe the idea of learning some spells from Serie, whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, um, is appealing to her because it does seem like she wants to collect as many spells as possible. Maybe.
Right. I mean, yeah, she is a collector of spells in a way. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I, I mostly believe that she would, um, but really only kind of for her own benefit. Like she probably wouldn't necessarily stick with it for too long of a time, but just kind of long enough for her to have benefited from it, kind of. Because she is, after all, doing these exams, and she is kind of complying to the system in that regard. So I believe I could see her being an apprentice to someone, especially since she even pointed out in this volume that she is an inexperienced mage compared to a lot of the others. But yeah, I guess we shouldn't go too far into Übel right now. But anyway, I do think it's an interesting thought that she may uh become Serie's apprentice at some point. And it's also funny that we both had that thought.
Yeah, I definitely have more to say on that when we talk about her.
For sure. Anything else on Serie?
We've touched on it at various points, but I just want to again bring up the instability in her mana.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it means that she's suppressing it a bit, but also that who knows how much more she has
Yeah.
uh, mana. However, you do mention that she kind of belittled Flame and Friren's training in suppressing their magic. But the demons were able to suppress their magic as well. They just didn't usually do it for various pride reasons. So I'm curious if, while CDA is doing it at all times, how much is she actually suppressing it versus how much Frieden suppresses it? And I wouldn't be surprised if CDA turned out to just be leagues above even Frieden. But I think it would be a cool twist if it turns out that Frieden's power has surpassed CDA even more so than she has uh, been able to realize because of her Frieden's suppressions and how much she suppresses it. Like
Hmm.
what I'm saying is CDA suppresses it just enough, but because it's so much power, they people can't see the instability, but it's not she's not suppressing as much as Frieren could be. That's just a possibility. It could be
Hmm.
the other
Hmm.
way. It could be a different, that she is actually suppressing quite a lot, but I wonder.
Yeah, I guess I just assumed that she was suppressing it as much as she could, and that resulted in I guess, a mana aura that looks massive still, but that if she would just relax or whatever, it would just be out of this world, kind of. Because it looks like right now, it looks like it's kind of on par with Freeren's when it's all out.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and she's definitely lived a long time and
Yeah.
is this ancient god mage. I get it.
Yeah. But at the same time, I do kind of see your point in how maybe she wouldn't want to suppress it or restrict it too much, because if she did, then people would think less of her, kind of.
Yes.
So I could definitely see that as well. I think that's a good point too.
Yeah. And I
Mm.
also think that not being able to just really silence your mana or suppress it is almost a sign of inability, less than just her not being able or choosing not to. Um, hence why she kind of mocked Frieden and Flamme for training for so long and to be able to do that. So I kind of doubt that she has the ability to go all the way, down to like a little silver sliver that it seems Frieden could potentially do.
I don't think Frieren can do that. I think that's the smallest she can go, is what we usually see.
Are you sure? I'm pretty sure she's gotten smaller.
I don't remember ever having seen that, but maybe I'm wrong. I definitely could be. I just assume that because hers is so big, normally it can't go as small as, for example, Fern's. But I definitely, again, could be wrong about that. While reading the volume, I started thinking about Sirius' height,
Yeah,
and she looks to
yeah.
be about the same height as Frieren, roughly,
Mm.
which is rather short. They're both kind of short. Uh,
Fern kind of towers over her.
yeah, right, yeah, over both of them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was thinking about like, is that just kind of normal for elves? Obviously, we have Crafts as another example of an elf. He looks to be kind of, I guess, normal sized, at least compared to humans. He at least he's not short at all.
No,
In fact, he's probably on the taller side.
I think so.
So it got me thinking that what if Frieren and Sirius heights are just kind of average adult female elf heights in this world? Obviously, we only have those two examples, um, but seeing as they are basically the same height, and at least Serie is definitely, at least the way I see it, fully grown. And I do believe Frieren is as well, although maybe not as certainly, but I do believe they both are like fully grown.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they maybe elf females just don't grow as tall as on average as human females.
Yeah.
Women. Feels so weird saying females about humans. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, that was just a little bit of a speculation there on, I guess, the anatomy on elves. But let us talk about Übel next.
Okay.
She's growing to understand land better, little by little.
Mm-hmm.
This volume, she put her life on the line because she trusted that he would help her out. So I thought that was interesting to see from her. Like she must have felt very sure that he would kind of come and assist her there. Otherwise, I don't think she would have done it unless she was very certain, I guess, that he would. But it was still a very interesting move.
Absolutely. She's not limited by her imagination.
Mm-hmm.
The book, or I should say, Sensei goes as far as to call her insane, but also a genius.
Exactly.
Um, and in some cases, those are synonyms of each other.
I believe so. Yeah. Yes. No. That was definitely really interesting. How we understand that this slashing spell of hers relies
Mm-hmm.
on her believing that she can slash through whatever it is that she uses it on, and
Mm.
I think that's a really interesting and unique gimmick. And in
Yeah.
general, this volume kind of as a whole really establishes that imagination and visualization are really central to the use of magic in this world. But well, obviously, Übel's slashing spell is, I guess, she kind of takes it to a new level. But because of this, I believe that Übel will be among the ones that will pass serious interview. Just because she is so well, she is very really skilled at the imaginative and visualization part of magic. I think that's going to be potentially the reason why Serie is going to pass Übel at the exam.
Yeah. No, I would be surprised if Ubo doesn't get passed.
Hmm.
I just think she's too much of a genius, really,
Right.
and has too many of the qualities that CDA looks for in a first
Mm.
class mage to pass. Although I do wonder why. Well, I guess he was the first class mage, and he had potential because he was even able to see that Frieren was restraining her mana.
Mm.
So I guess that he had potential too, but not like this. This Ubel is just something very different, kind of a once in a generation genius. I mean, although Fern's got something going on too, so
She definitely does. I mean, she has also impressed Serie, obviously.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, yeah.
it'd be very interesting to see if some sort of rivalry comes between Fern and Ubel. I mean, there definitely was that potential in the previous volume, but it didn't really spark anything.
Right. But that's also a thought that I kind of enjoy about the possibility. Like, assuming we are right in assuming that Syria will take on Übel, then we would have these two pairings with an elf mistress or master and a human uh, disciple, or what do you call it,
Mm-hmm.
apprentice,
Mm-hmm.
with those kind of mirroring each other and perhaps these rivalries maybe developing more from that potentially.
Yeah, that definitely could be interesting.
But we did learn about this third class mage exam that Übel was a part of 2 years ago,
Yeah.
where she sliced the instructor in half, despite his impeccable defensive magic. Like that, it was like
Yeah.
unrivaled. But she believed she could cut him, so she did. I love that. It's so interesting. By the way, that guy's name was Berg or Burg in German, whatever, which means castle in German.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm not entirely sure. I guess a castle is supposed to
Yeah,
be
castle
hard
defense.
to
Yeah.
penetrate. Yeah. So
No, I
something
think it
like
makes
that.
perfect sense. That's cool.
So yeah, just wanted to mention that real quick. But yeah, Übel definitely fun to learn about her, more about her backstory, more about her kind of psyche to a degree. Here in
Hmm.
this volume, very fun to dive more into her.
Right. And I guess going back to Serie's idea of magic being special, Ubel is definitely in that special kind of region, and you could
Mm,
argue Fern is as well. But I think there's a lot of pleasing qualities that Serie will find in Ubel, and I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see how they interact, and if Ubel is actually willing to go along with it. There's probably a lot of
yeah,
benefits for her, but I also wonder if that's something that she wants to be tied down to, or how
exactly.
or even how restrictive it would be. Who knows?
Yeah, right. I guess it really depends kind of on what kind of a deal they make or whatever
Yeah.
they, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I love that possibility anyway.
Hmm.
Anything else on Evil?
I think I mentioned this last volume, but while she's definitely frightening, and you see that kind of frightening side in this volume, you do see the more human side of her as well, and how
Yeah.
she's sympathizing or empathizing with people. Um, and with her and Land, you see it where she's willing to sacrifice her bottle for him, even though she's kind of figured out it wasn't the real him.
Yeah.
But there are signs that she has qualities of a good person.
Yeah, I definitely think so too.
To what extent is that just her being manipulative, her trying to get what she wants, or is it actually genuine? I'm not entirely sure, because there is the underlying thing where if she can eventually empathize with him, she does get his magic, his spell.
Mm,
So I don't know. We'll see.
yeah, we will. Then let's talk about Denken a little bit next. I thought he was very smart to want to cooperate with everyone in order to complete the exam.
Mm,
Sadly, I think there was just too much distrust among the group for that to really work, or at least for it to work right away.
yeah,
But yeah, I liked his ideas there.
yeah. I mean, he's really one of the few who knows what they're doing. I'm curious. I'm curious if CDA is gonna pass him. She may not because of his age.
That's ageist.
It is, but she doesn't give a crap.
But no, she does. She does. I mean, technically he's really young compared to her.
Yeah, I mean,
Technically.
yeah. He just barely born. Like
Yeah, exactly. No, but I see what you mean though. I've chosen to believe that he will pass.
I hope so. I really do. I hope so.
Mm,
But I could also see CDA being a butt about it.
for sure. Yeah, that is sadly definitely possible. um,
And I think it would be cool if Fern gets passed somehow without being accepted as her apprentice. Fern becomes the guide for Dinkin,
oh,
and you know, and that way helps him out. Or
right.
or somebody else who become. But I really, if I'm being honest, I think there's only two people who could potentially pass, and I think that's Fern and Ubel. And
Hmm.
Frieren, but we've already that ship has sailed. Um,
Yeah.
which by the way, let me just bring up, because I think we had to talk earlier. Is, oh, what's going to happen? Is Fern going to pass or is Frieren going to pass?
Hmm.
And I think we both felt that either both or one of them would. And I think I was like, oh, I think Frieren could. and I think you took more of the side that, oh, I think Fern would. So you were right
Mm.
on that one. Although I wasn't didn't necessarily think you were wrong. I just
Oh
had a
yeah.
feeling it may go a different way, but it definitely would. I definitely think it will go the Fern way potentially. We still don't know for sure.
Yeah, it's
Um,
not completely settled, but it definitely is looking like. I mean, I believe even though Fern is not interested in becoming serious apprentice,
mhm.
I still believe she will pass this exam and become a
Yeah.
first class mate and get that certification. I'm quite sure she will. So that's very exciting.
Right. So I think based on that, the only two potential who could pass are Fern and Übel.
Hmm.
I don't think Denkin can get past her stubbornness, to be honest.
That is a fair worry. I'm probably though choosing to think that he will pass more likely than not, as the third person to pass, and I do think it's gonna be those three specifically and no one else. Is my thinking on it.
If anybody deserves, I think he throwing Frieren out of the equation. I think Denkin is after before Übel, or you know what I mean. Like he would be next
Uh,
in line,
oh yeah,
in terms
that's
of
fair.
people who would pass. But
Right, right.
I just don't know if she's gonna bite. But anyway, um,
Mm,
yeah, I mean, he just continues to be a wise, I'd even say kind man
mm.
who has experience and is teaches the younger folk and consoles them and dotes on his adopted grandchild. I don't know.
Dude,
That relationship is still kind of funny, but wholesome.
I love how that continued into this book, the whole thing with Laufin, and it almost made me wonder, like, what if they actually are grandfather and granddaughter? Almost got me to think that.
She even calls him her old man. You know,
Right,
like
exactly. Like,
like they've known each
so
other for years. It's
yeah,
like
it's so seamless, like so natural to them at this point. uh, oh well, oh well. Anything else on Denkin?
I like how he sees himself in Richter, you know, and
Right,
he's able to give advice that way.
that was good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Sensei then. I mentioned last time how her name means scythe in German. And I think back then we were a little bit at a loss as to why. I mean, we kind of suspected that it would mean something about her trial being harsh somehow. But I believe
Mm.
now, having gotten to know her character more in this volume, I believe it's because of her hair and the way she uses her hair.
Yeah.
So that's fun to actually, well, to understand and to know the meaning of her name now. It was fun how she came along, and the fact that she came along actually made it more of a challenge for them.
Yeah. Yeah, her role was very interesting. She claims to be a pacifist, and I'm
Mm,
inclined to believe it.
yeah.
Although, I mean, this definitely is because of Serie's influence, but you know they're very strict on the tests, and they try to not let as many people as possible pass.
Mm.
Um, so while it seemed like she was happy, you know, oh, congratulations, you all passed. When she was like reporting to Serie, it did seem like she was rather disappointed, you know, like
Yeah, or at least apologetic about it.
yeah,
So,
apologetic, but she also was there was a moment where she was silent and Serie was like, "Oh, this means you're upset." Or something like that. Here,
mm.
let me.
Oh yeah. I think I recall. Yeah, I mean, the her pacifistic side, it does show in the way that no one actually died in this exam, as opposed to the previous one where there were several deaths.
Mm.
But it's that it on Sensei.
I just want to touch on the Spiegel demon, you know, like I think
Oh yeah.
that the whole clone idea and then the dungeon was just really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously very terrifying. And honestly, the clones in a way were kind of almost zombie-like in terms of coloring and vacant expressions.
Yeah, and also learning or understanding that they are mindless, even though they
Yeah.
act as if they aren't. Kind of, they the fact that we do know that they are, that also kind of makes it a little zombie-esque. It also got me thinking about Dark Link and Zelda. Uh,
Yes. Actually, very yes.
That was kind of fun.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't know what inspired that in Legend of Zelda, but I wouldn't be surprised if that part of the Legend of Zelda inspired this.
Yeah, I could see that too, for sure. Especially since Dark Link appears to generally in a dungeon to
Mm-hmm.
face Link, and he uses the same moves and everything. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk next about Edel. Her name means noble. I don't know if we knew her name since before. I didn't
No, I don't think so.
recognize it. I believe this was the first time we got a name for her. I mean, she was a
Yeah,
very minor character in the previous
just in
book.
the background, really, with
Yeah,
the other two
but
Stooges.
exactly. But yeah, her name is Noble, and
That makes sense.
I think it makes sense as well. And really, the only other thing I really had on her is about what she told us, or well, in a way, she told us readers about how it's more mana efficient to manipulate nearby elements compared to just creating magic out of nothing. I love that. Like it makes so much sense. I think. I mean,
Right.
it's fantasy, but it makes a lot of sense, and I love just the world building that is revealed to us here, and I just here and there throughout the story, we do get little pieces of this. But this is one of those examples that I don't know. It was just really nice to get that information to me.
Yeah, I agree. That was it was neat, and I
Hmm.
just like that we got Adele just actually got to know what her character is like besides just the funny little panels we'd see in the previous volume. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, she's an expert in mind magic, seems very knowledgeable and able to break down a situation quickly.
Hmm.
Um, and hypnosis magic is the business of her family. So,
Yeah.
surprising a lot of information about this minor character, in really only a few pages. So I don't know. It'd be cool if she was brought back in some way, but I would be
Mm.
surprised if it was anything major. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I'm glad we got to learn more.
Absolutely. Then next, a little bit on Virbal. And on, yeah, I mean, all of the remaining ones is very little for me at least,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
um, I thought it was fun to see. He gave an example of it, but he's not the only one who's given examples of mages who use like magic that we've seen Frieren and Fern use,
Uh huh.
but they use it differently in various ways. And because in his example here that we saw in this book, he used shield magic, but he made the shield far bigger than it really needed to be, which obviously must have consumed far more mana than necessary.
Hmm.
Um, and because I remember in one of the early volumes, probably one or two, uh, I believe there was a chapter when Frieren taught Fern about the shield magic and how she shouldn't just create a big shield around her, instead just create small shields only where they need to be in order to preserve her mana. And so yeah, Frieren and Fern do that. They are more efficient in that way. But a lot of the other mages, Verbal included, don't really think like that. They just make a big shield to be safe, I guess. But it is not mana efficient.
Hmm.
But anyway, did you have anything on Verbal?
Not written down, but I did kind of forget about him when I was saying of the potential people that CDA could pass.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think he has potential. I don't know if I put him above Denkin, um, but I could also see CDA playing, ageism or whatever, because he's younger than Denkin. She could pass him, but I don't know if he exactly matches the criteria that she's looking for, but it could be interesting.
Maybe. Yeah. I've chosen to not pass him. But yeah, he definitely could.
Wait, you chose not to pass him?
I mean, I've chosen to believe that
Oh, okay.
Syria won't
Sorry, I
pass
was just
him,
like, what? Okay,
but
gotcha.
no, yeah, no, I'm aware. I
No,
expressed
no.
myself a little weird there. But
Again,
yeah,
like I just think that he is definitely in the top 4 of the most, taking
Yeah.
again Frieren out, of the
Mm.
passable ones.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Out of the ones that haven't gotten a result yet, I guess. Then yeah, I'd
Mhm.
also place him at number 4.
Mm.
Very well. Let's talk about Lavine next.
My bad, pops.
So disrespectful.
Yeah. She called him a middle-aged man. He's like, yeah, I know it's true, but it hurts.
Yeah, I love how she kind of has that attitude toward him. I mean, and he has it he had it coming, like since in the previous book
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was very mean to Lavinia and Kana.
absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, it's through her that we learn a lot more about this water mirror demon called Spiegel.
Oh.
It means mirror in German.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Also the last name of a certain space cowboy in a certain space western anime. But yeah, it just means mirror.
Hmm.
She failed the second exam, but that doesn't really matter. She probably wouldn't have passed
She wouldn't have
serious
passed. No,
serious thing. No.
there's no way. I mean, let's be
No.
honest.
Mm.
Frieden carried them in a way, and
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was a good learning moment for them, and they're very young, so
Oh yeah, they can certainly, I believe, get this certification in the future, but they're not there yet.
at least if Serie doesn't do the decision making. But
Right. I mean, honestly, I believe even without Serie, I believe she and Kane, Lavina and Kane aren't first class material at
mhm,
this point.
not quite.
Honestly, they're
Yeah,
very good, but
yeah. But she got head pats, and
she
that
did.
made it almost better.
Almost, yeah. That was so cute. Uh, yes. Well, a little bit about Lernan next. We mentioned him already as the person who to become the first class, the first class mage, and he was also the guy who designed the bottled escape golems.
Oh, that was him.
Mm.
Oh, I
Yeah, they
for some
mentioned it
reason I
like
forgot to
just kind of
connect the names. No, yeah, no, yeah.
yeah,
I
just kind
remember
of
the
in
name being
pass
there.
by at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and his name lernen means to learn in German.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
one
Yeah.
one could probably guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. And anything else on him?
No. No.
Then a little bit on Stark. The only thing I really got is that he's still hanging out with that old man who probably has dementia. Who's like, I've taught you all I can. Like, I have nothing more to teach you. Like that guy.
That's
Oh
what you
my
said
god,
last time.
that's so funny.
Or that's what you keep saying or whatever.
Yeah.
I love that gag so much.
Yeah, me too.
It was so great.
It was somehow funnier the second time. Whew. But yeah, I mean, obviously this isn't his arc exactly. But do you have anything else on Stark?
Uh no. Well, yes, just one little thing.
Hmm?
He's talking to Fern. He's like, even I don't get you, and she starts hitting him. He's like, please no, don't
Yeah.
hurt me. Um, but I really like the advice that he gave Fern about that Frieden is trying to understand Fern, and that's the important part. That
Right.
she's trying, So we all have different personalities, and I mean that doesn't necessarily excuse terrible behavior,
No.
but I think it can give us help us forgive others and understand that, or at least look for ways that people are trying to improve, or
Hmm.
how they go about understanding and thinking of things.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, the act of trying to understand each other is really the first and arguably the most crucial step in understanding someone.
Mm,
So, like, without trying to, you won't be able to, you know?
yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a very beautiful message that comes from Stark here. The rest of the characters that I have mentions for are really just translations of their names.
Oh, okay.
But I guess we'll go through them and add anything you want if there's anything. First up, we got Methode. Her name means method. Surprise, surprise. Then there's Edel's guys, Bly and Dünste.
Mm.
Blei means lead, like the metal lead.
Huh.
Not really sure how that's connected to his character. And dünste means thinnest, like the thinnest.
Like with an F or a TH?
Th.
Oh, thinnest. Okay.
Thinnest. Yeah. Also not super obvious why that is his name, but
Does he have a thin
yeah.
mustache? Like, I don't even know. Like...
I don't think it's particularly thin. I tried to look at, like, is it the mustache, is it his waist, but like I thought both were kind of average, I guess.
Yeah, no, his mustache is pretty thick.
Right, true. Yeah, the mustache might even be thick. So his name should have been thickest, or whatever that is in German. Uh, Actually, I think the word for thick in German is dick. I believe. I could be wrong, but if I recall from my German lessons many years ago, I think that's the case. But
That's
please
so funny
correct
on
me.
so many levels. Oh my gosh.
If any Germans are listening to this, which I believe there are at least a few, maybe, then please correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Oh man. Whew. Just call me thick.
Dummy thick. Well, moving on. The very last character that I have that I'm gonna bring up is Falsch, who is another one of the Serie's instructors or guys somehow. He was one of the three that appeared on a panel in the previous volume, and
Right.
you speculated that he may have been, maybe he would be one of the
I
instructors for the
did. I
exams.
did.
What I thought was definitely a fair, I guess, speculation.
No, you fought back against it. You did. I remember.
Did I?
I was
I mean,
salty. You fought back. You're just like, no, there's no indication. Like, there's no. I'm like, oh, but come on. And you're like, oh, okay, maybe. But it was kind of like a maybe.
I may have been like.
But in the end, like it wasn't true. Like he wasn't going to give the final exam. However, he was a person. He is real. Like it
absolutely
was a thing. So it wasn't totally crazy.
No, absolutely no, and yeah. But anyway, he was there, and falsch in German means false or incorrect, which not really sure what the significance of that is there, but that's what it means anyway.
I guess he was wrong about Frieren, I guess.
True. Actually, yeah, you could say that. Very well. Let's move on to the final bit of the discussion. So, out of the 18 who entered the second exam, 6 of them failed, being Lawine, Richter, Edel, Blei, the little mage girl, who I don't know the name of, as well as the douchebag guy, who I also don't remember the name of, or no, maybe we never got it.
Overconfident guy.
Definitely overconfident. So I was very glad to see that he was carried out in that one panel in kind of the montage section.
Well, guy didn't die.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody died. But that leaves 12 who entered this final third part of the exam, and we saw 6 of them fail.
Mm-hmm.
Which, obviously, as we've talked, we both believe Fern and Übel stand a pretty good chance at passing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Denkin will pass, and I think you think that there's a good possibility for that as well. We talked about Wirbel being probably the 4th contender in order, and Methode and Land remain as well, but I'm pretty sure they are not gonna pass. What do you think?
I'd actually put Land ahead of, from what I've seen, probably put her ahead of Methode, but yeah, I just don't know. With Land, I don't know if it's quite to the level that she would be wanting. I really haven't seen like what his mana detection is like, or anything to that extent. But I don't know, man. If Übel really impresses Serie and she gets taken in as apprentice, like I don't know, like maybe she'd be able to convince her to let Lan pass. But
oh yeah,
that's really the only way I could see it. Him passing.
Yeah,
Um,
I believe so.
yeah. I'm gonna say that I'll be honest with these exams. I think I've I've forgotten some things right for the most, but for the most part, I think I've been wrong. For example, I think we. Well, I actually don't remember how we said it would all end. Did we say that the third exam would end in this next volume, or did we think it would be two volumes? Or do you remember? We talked about it for a little bit.
We definitely talked about it. I don't remember what your speculation was. I believe my speculation was that the second exam would take up most of this volume, which it did. I don't think I explained what I would think about the like exam as a whole, though, like with the third part and everything.
Oh, I could have sworn we talked about that though.
We definitely may have, but I don't really remember. I'm just really happy right now about the fact that it seems like Frieren. I mean, obviously she did get the fail, and it seems like Fern is going to pass. I'm just really
Hmm.
happy about that because that's a win for me.
You definitely nailed it. And again, I never said it wasn't a possibility.
No,
Um,
no, no.
I just yeah, I thought well maybe what if it could went the other way.
Uh-huh.
I think with the third exam, that'll be obviously quick, one or two chapters if that,
Yeah.
and then I think they could finally move on. And so I'm happy that we'll get Stark back probably more consistently. But I also wonder if we're gonna finally see um, Sane or Scene or however you say it.
Sign.
Sign. Oh, that's it. I
Mm,
thought that,
mm.
but then I changed it.
No,
Sign.
it's confusing because we've had obviously we've done 12 discussions about Vinland Saga on the podcast where there's a lot of Scandinavian pronunciations, and it's funny, and because I've started thinking about it a little more, how German pronunciation and Scandinavian pronunciation differs when it comes to the EI letter combination.
Hmm.
Whereas in German it becomes I, and in Scandinavian it becomes A. So yeah, you just gotta try to keep track of that.
Get good, James. I'm sorry. Um, so will they meet up with Sign again? Like, I feel like I mean, I definitely want that.
Yeah, yeah, I think that would be nice. I mean, I'm sure they will eventually. I just don't know exactly how soon. But regardless, as you said, it's gonna be a blast to have Stark be back more properly into the story again.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. Also, as you said, this third part of the exam can't take long. That said, though, maybe they will linger on maybe the aftermaths of it, perhaps, including like maybe there will be something with Übel, Serie, Denken, something with that.
Yeah. I think there'll be something, especially if Dinkin ends up, you know, joining them. If he doesn't pass,
Right.
you need someone to help him. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that would be sweet if he would go with them for a few chapters to get escorted.
I just remembered that I think in our previous discussion, I said that very few people would end up passing the second exam, and that did not happen.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
Sensei was too
I'm just
generous.
taking L's left and right here.
That's
Um,
okay.
I really thought
uh,
it'd be like Fern and Frieden or one or the other get to the third
mm.
exam or something like that.
Oh yeah, like and then having like a yeah, just like a small thing for the
Yeah,
for the finalists. I mean
yeah.
yeah, I see. But yeah, I mean sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get unlucky with these predictions. I mean I know what it's like as well.
I
uh,
don't call it luck. I call it predicting.
yeah.
And unfortunately, I have not been able to. Well, not a. That's not true. I have predicted some things, but
You have,
uh,
yeah.
this arc, curse you. Nah, it's a great arc.
Yeah, it is a great arc. Yeah, probably I'd say my favorite arc in terms of like these longer lasting ones. I mean, I guess to be fair, there hasn't been a lot of those in the story so far, but
Right. This is probably the longest one.
yeah, it lasted two solid volumes so far.
Uh huh.
That is definitely the longest I believe that any one event kind of has been going on. Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. I hope the story will move more into this kind of format and have it be more, I guess, arc focused as opposed to kind of more episodic as it was in the very beginning. Though I still enjoyed that a whole lot, so I guess I wouldn't complain about that either. But I think I'm enjoying these more longer arcs even more.
I wouldn't mind if it kind of went back and forth. Like it had some episodic ones here and there, and then
Yeah.
it would go to an arc for a little bit, and then back and forth. Because we kind of we that's what we've kind of been doing. Like when we had Guillotine Demon Lady,
Yeah, Aura. Yeah.
Aura, her whole I think her arc was like a volume or so, wasn't it?
I believe it was about a volume long. Yeah.
At least it may have been across 2 volumes, but I think
Yeah. I think it
normally
was like
it would be.
from about halfway into the one to about halfway into the next. I think
Exactly.
roughly.
Yeah, I think roughly. Yeah, I should say exactly, roughly. Um, but yes. So if it continues that kind of thing, then I'm good with that.
Absolutely. So yeah, man, loving this series more and more by each volume. Truly,
Absolutely.
it's a masterpiece in my opinion. I got it rated at a 9 out of 10. Personally, I absolutely love this story.
Mm.
How are you rating this story so far?
How would I think I got to give it a 9 out of 10 as well. I think
Sweet.
that's very appropriate for it. I don't know how I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Um, that's always been a challenge for me is the jump between 9 and 10. But yeah, I think that this is a very special and unique manga, and that's why I can debate if it should be your 10 or 10 or not because it has this unique take on a genre that has been done in anime and in manga quite a bit with this
Mm.
kind of medieval world and magic and whatnot, but this take on an elf's journey and her memories, and kind of going retracing her steps in a way is very unique, and the characters are special and the comedy is on point as well. So yeah, there's a lot going for it, and that's why it's a solid 9 out of 10.
Wonderful. And I believe with that all said, we have reached the end of this week's episode. If you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by rating our show on the podcast platforms and subscribing to our channel, Umami Manga, on YouTube. If you like this episode, please share it with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about Volume 7. Bye bye!
See you later.
Ja, good time.